Take a breath. Just breathe that in. Breathe into that space of holiness. What would it be like if we walked through this world knowing that everything is holy? Holy, worthy of complete devotion as one perfect in goodness and righteousness, as if sacred. What if every life on this planet were a sacred life? What if every moment in our lives we considered a holy moment? A moment of goodness. What kind of world could we create? This morning we sang about sacred love. Sacred. Entitled to reverence and respect. Now, I joke a lot about being the irreverent reverend, because I say things often that probably ministers shouldn't say. I guarantee you I do some things that people say are not very ministerial, right? And yet, I understand the importance of reverence, the importance of respect. What if we could love with reverence and respect, looking always for the good in one another? I had an interesting week. So last weekend I spent the week meditating and filling my bucket. It was wonderful. And one of our challenges this week was to keep track of every time we have a judgment about someone else. And then to keep track of every time we said something good or thought something good about someone else. I am not going to tell you what my scorecard is. But I feel pretty certain that some of you would have been right there with me. It sounds easy, this idea of just being reverent, this idea of being respectful. We've grown up with it, most of us. And yet we all know how very difficult it can be to live by the Jesus code. You turn on the news and we are assaulted by violence in our community, violence around the globe. Every time I have to stay off Facebook, I have to stay off social media, because even when I pray, I still get kind of like, it takes me a minute, right? Because the divide between us gets greater, like in minutes, let alone day by day. The divide that separates us from them, whichever us you are and whichever them they are, gets wider and wider. Children are hungry. People are living in substandard housing, and the laundry list of everything wrong with this world gets longer and longer and presses down upon us. Is it any wonder that now more than ever, people suffer from loneliness, from isolation, from feeling disconnected from each other and from source? Is it any wonder? And yet there is a solution. Simple, not easy. But there is a solution, and that solution is as old as time itself. I believe that. And it's a solution that sages and mystics and spiritual teachers have been telling us over and over again throughout the years. One of those is our brother, our master teacher, our way shower, Jesus. In a verse that may be familiar to some of you, in Luke chapter 10, verse 25. Just then a lawyer stood up, sorry lawyers, to test Jesus. Teacher, he said, what must I do to inherit eternal life? He said to him, what is written in the law? What do you read there? And he answered, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. Simple. Love God, love yourself, love others. I call it the Jesus Code because I believe that it was not just an answer to a question. I believe it was a prescription for a code of conduct. That it was Jesus' instructions to us of how we are to behave, how we are to be in the world, how we are to live if we truly want heaven on earth. Then this is what we have to do. If you want more love, more abundance, more prosperity, more joy, more beauty, this is the answer. Love. Love is the answer. Love is the solution to every heartbreak, to every pain, to every challenge. It begins with love. I know that to be true. Among the many teachers who have said that to us is Martin Luther King, who said, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And hate cannot drive out hate. Only hate. Only love can do that. Let's try that again. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Only love. So I have a confession to make. I was at a Martin Luther King breakfast a week or so ago. And I was thinking about the lesson. I was thinking about this month coming up. And I went, love. In 7 years of ministry, I've probably given, over 200 lessons in love. So my exasperation wasn't that I don't love love, but that I was like, what am I going to say? Like, what haven't they heard? What's new? What's different? Why am I talking about love again? They know that there's only love. They know that love's the solution. How am I going to feel 4 Sundays about love? And it was interesting because the answer didn't come right away. The answer actually came several days later. I was sitting back at a table back here with our design team. And and the architect who's in charge of the project, and Ron Bonar, some of you know him, was asking the same question that he had asked every time he and I had met with the architectural firm. Asking the same question and still not getting the answer that he was looking for. And I could see this was going nowhere fast. So I took a deep breath and I turned in and I thought, how can I say this differently? And so I spoke up. I asked for the exact same information, but I asked for it in a different way. And all of a sudden there was a look of knowingness on Noah's face. And he goes, oh, I understand what you want. I'll have it to you by Friday. Now, we've been asking this question since October. Suddenly we're going to have it by Friday. But it was an aha moment for me. Like as soon as he told us he would give us what he wanted, I went, oh, that's the answer. You see, as long as people feel lonely and isolated, as long as there are people who believe they are unlovable or unloved, as long as people don't hear and understand that the solution is love, I am commissioned to speak about love. In the hopes that you'll hear it differently this time. In the hopes that you'll hear it in a way that moves you. Not just in here, out here. Because that love that Jesus talked about, that love that Martin Luther King talked about, is not an emotion. Who's been in love? Isn't it a great feeling? Doesn't it suck when you fall out of it? And how many of you have fallen out of it? Some of us multiple times. Right? This is not the love that will change the world. This is not the love that will make you happy. This is not the love that our children need. This is not the love of the legacy we want to leave behind. The love we want to leave behind is sacred love. A love that is a consciousness. A love that is an action. A love that is unchangeable. It is the same today as it is tomorrow, as it will be 20 years from now. Sacred, holy love. Born out of respect. Born out of reverence. Born out of goodness. That's the love that they are calling us to. That is the love they are asking us to be in the world. As I sat at that breakfast celebrating Martin Luther King and hearing the speaker talk once again about that famous speech, The Dream, I suddenly had this beautiful memory of another dream. When my daughter was 13 years old on Valentine's Day, she presented me with a framed essay that she had written in school in honor of Dr. King and his dream. And in that essay, she described her dream. A world where her mother was not discriminated against. A world where people did not say unkind things to her mother because of who she was, because of what she was standing up for, because of who she loved. And in her world, she and her peers were not judged because of who their parents were, which side of town they lived on, how they dressed, or how they looked. That wise, loving soul at 13 recognized that we do not earn respect. It is ours. We inherited it the minute we drew breath on this earth. That every living thing deserves respect, deserves reverence, deserves to be honored as good. Now, that's not easy, right? When people are saying unkind things to you, it is not easy to remember that they too are a child of a living, loving presence. And it's not easy to stand up and to say, this is not acceptable. I will not stand by while people are treated this way. It's not easy. But we have everything that we need to do just that. You see, this kind of love, like faith, requires feet. Requires us to move. I'm reading a book right now called Anatomy of Peace. I'm loving this book. And one of the things that the author talks about is the reason that there's no peace in the world. One of the reasons, the root, is we're asking the wrong question. You see, we walk around asking questions like, what can you do for me? What can the world give to me? What is my employer going to do for me? We have become selfish and self-centered. Even in our kindness. Oftentimes our kindness is because I don't want you to think I'm being unkind. I want you to approve of me. I want you to love me. I want you to pay attention to me. Selfish and self-centered. One of the hardest parts of the big books of Alcoholics Anonymous for me to hear was this. Selfish self-centeredness. That, we think, is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. When I am doing something to see what I can get, it's called self-seeking. When people offer me solutions, and I say, yeah, but you didn't live my life. Yeah, but you don't have this going on. Yeah, but. That's called self-pity. Now, if you're feeling uncomfortable, I've done my job. We can all do with a little discomfort. Oftentimes, it's the only thing that motivates us to do things differently. They conferred a degree upon me that said I could afflict the comfortable. So if you're a little uncomfortable, it's okay. It makes me uncomfortable to look at it and to see all the ways that I'm selfish and self-serving. And so the solution is to begin to ask the right question. And the right question is, how do I give respect? How do I demonstrate reverence? How do I do good? What can I do to make the world a better place? What can I do? What is my part in all of this? Because there is always something you can do. It is time for us to move into action, to walk in this world in the spirit of love. So in the spirit used to be a phrase we would hear frequently. I come to you in the spirit of friendship. I'm here in the spirit of peace. We don't think much about it. So in spirit, according to philosopher and teacher Thomas Troward, the spirit is that which gives life and movement to anything. In fact, that which causes it to exist at all. Love exists because we exist. We are the life and the movement of love. If not us, then who? Then who? Love begs us to ask the question, how do I show respect? How do I walk this world in reverence? How do I walk this world in goodness? How do I begin to see the goodness in others? My daughter ended her essay by saying that she was proud to have a mother who stood up for injustice, who stood up and spoke the truth, who wasn't afraid to be who she was. Today I'm in gratitude for Lindsay Nicole Walden, who calls me to be better than I think I can, who calls me to do that which I think I cannot. That's what we're here for. our way into happiness. We cannot dream our way into a better future. We have to move our feet. Martin Luther King also said, "A wishbone will not suffice when a backbone is required." It's time to get a backbone for love, people. It's time to create a new dream. Are we better than we were 20 years ago? Whew, absolutely. Absolutely. Do we still have a long way to go? Read the news. Yes, we have a long way to go. And the only way to get there is through love. I have a new theme song, so I'm going to share it with you. I only Glenda-ized it a little bit. I am not a warrior. I'm too afraid to lose. I feel unqualified for what you're calling me to. But with your strength, I've got no excuse. Because broken people are exactly who you use. Give me faith like Daniel in the lion's den. Give me hope like Moses in the wilderness. Give me a heart like David. Be my defense so I can face my giants with confidence. Join me. Join me in the much needed, long awaited revolution. A revolution of sacred, holy love. In infinite love and gratitude. Amen.